Let's break down the golf swing of Garrett Clark of GM Golf and Good Good. Now, I know that Garrett is kind of seen as the face of YouTube golf, but we should not be forgetting that Garrett is a heck of a golfer, former collegiate golfer. I don't think he's really playing and practicing full rounds as often as he once did, but a lot to love from this motion and a lot to learn from. So let's talk about it. Now, let's start off by talking about Clark's posture. This is the posture with the driver swing, pretty average knee bend and good posture over this ball. Recently with the wedges and irons, we've seen Garrett get a little bit lower, a little bit more hunch in the back. Now, in the golf swing, I don't think that's really that much of an issue. For some people, they just like to feel more weight transfer in the golf swing, and one way that you can do that is just by getting a little bit lower to the ground, hunched over. So having, that difference in the setup between irons and driver is totally normal, and I see no issues with it. Anyone listening at home, the only thing that you need to be considering with setup in that regard between driver and iron is just make sure it's consistent. Be very mindful of, hey, this is how I set up to my driver. I'm going to be a little bit straighter, have my right arm a little bit down, closer to my body, whatever it may be. Just make sure it's consistent between all of your golf shots. Now let's take a look at a really slowed down video here of Garrett Clark with the driver. And I think one of Clark's best moves is how he leverages the ground. So if you see his arms and his head go up and then they really come down through the impact zone. So what he's doing there is he's leveraging the ground in order to create speed. And we can also see that by the way that his left leg interacts with the ground through the impact position. Now here's a little bit of a different angle where we should be able to see it. Take a look at his lead leg. It bends in a little bit as the body comes up, and then through the ball it completely straightens out, and you can even see that left leg, the left foot, it almost comes entirely off the ground and shows a completely different pivot through the ball. This is excellent weight transfer, and for anyone looking to add some distance in their golf swing, take a look at your golf swing and look at that left foot. What is it doing through the ball? Now, you just saw an iron swing there, or a couple iron swings. You can see that that left foot isn't having nearly the same interaction with the ground as it does with driver. In a lot of the videos that Garrett films, you can see him really get after driver, really swing pretty hard at it, and he also has a pretty smooth swing even when he's getting after it a little bit more. But it's just important to note that when you're hitting irons, when you're hitting these field wedge shots, notice how Garrett is always very controlled. With the driver, he can get after it. He can try and squeeze some extra yards. You have a much larger landing zone with the driver. With irons, it's much more finesse-based. So just keep that in the back of your mind. I think Garrett's golf swing is that of someone who's very athletic and has very strong hand-eye coordination. And one way that his hand-eye coordination really manifests itself is in the way that he can work the ball. A while ago, a few years ago, Garrett became well known for hitting these crazy stinger shots that most of us can only dream of. And part of the reason that he's really able to do that is because his hand-eye coordination is so solid. And he's able to really manipulate the club face in his hands and with the grip as his relation to the club very efficiently. And it's something that a lot of people just can't do. So I wish I could sit here and say this is exactly how Garrett Clark does some of these things. He can turn to the draw, he can turn to the fade, but at the end of the day, it does come down to having great feel over, what that club is doing in your hands. If you want to hit a draw, Garrett probably feels that in his right hand, turning it over a little bit through the ball. If he wants to hit a fade, he may feel a slightly stronger left hand or even weakening up that right hand in order to get that ball flight. And that's something that takes a lot of practice in order to feel out. You can't just show up to the golf course and do it. You need to work on it. And although Garrett, isn't really playing tournament golf right now, he has worked on it a lot in the past as he was a collegiate golfer, played a lot of golf in high school as well, a great golfer. It takes that practice and obviously some level of raw talent in order to have that ability to move the ball around. Now, as a lot of Garrett's content is filmed on the course, we do get to see a lot of Garrett's good swings as well as some of the bad ones. And I think what I often notice in Garrett's bad ones is it's usually an issue of tempo. And that's not very uncommon when a lot of amateur golfers hit bad shots. It's a result of tempo. As I said earlier, Garrett isn't really a range rat right now. He's probably not playing a ton of 18-hole rounds, so it's pretty intrinsic that you're going to have some off-tempo golf swings. With Garrett, with the driver, it usually manifests itself in a double cross, which is when he takes that club away just a little bit too fast and he gets out ahead of himself. And when you get out ahead of yourself, that club face is going to shut down a little bit more and you're going to pull the ball. So not only are you going to pull it, started a little bit left of your line, but it's probably going to move a little bit too far right to left for a right-handed golfer. So if there's ever a bad swing off of Garrett Clark's club face, it's often a result of tempo. Occasionally he'll get too shallow and he'll hit a little bit of a hook regardless of tempo. But, all in all, it's very hard to critique a motion like this. The rhythm, the balance of the golf swing is very fluid. In a lot of these videos, we've seen Garrett go on some pretty impressive runs that really can't be done unless you're an exceptional golfer, and I would put Garrett Clark in that category. If you have any questions or comments on things in Garrett's swing that I mentioned or failed to mention, please leave them in the comment section down below. And if you have any, insight on Garrett Clark's swing that you see, please offer those thoughts down in the comment section below. As always, I thank you all very much for watching. Play well and take care.